Two friends just made a podcast. Two good friends just made a podcast. Two friends just made a podcast. It's called Culture Bucket. Two friends just made a podcast. Two good friends just made a podcast. Two friends just made a podcast. Culture Bucket, Georgia and Alex.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Culture Bucket for one of our special episodes. Different formats being tried out and tested in Culture Bucket at the moment, so always please do let us know what you think. Today we're going to be doing our first sort of deep dive into a season of television, which is exciting.
Yeah.
Can't be done on my own, obviously. It would be excruciating and just terrible. So with me is my co-host Alex, who will be helping me to dissect the first season of HBO's The White Lotus. So say hello, please, Alex.
Hi, everyone. Hi, George. How are you
Hi,
today?
Alex. How are you doing?
I'm good.
I'm
good.
No, it's awkward. We have to start again.
I'm good.
Okay,
I'm great.
hi everyone. Welcome back to Culture Bucket. This is the White Lotus episode. With me is
What?
Alex. Hi, Alex.
What are you doing?
Because we said how are you at the same time.
But it doesn't matter.
We need to start it. No, it's
What's
not.
wrong with you?
It's not a professional way to begin.
Oh, are
So
you being
Alex,
serious?
how are you?
I'm great. I'm great. Excited to talk about the White Lotus. Excited to talk about the White
The
Lotus.
White Lotus.
White Lotus. Excited to have a new format. Yeah. Very good. How are you?
I am brilliant. I'm excited for us to be trying out this new format. It's something we haven't really done before, but you know, it's good to try new things and try different things, etc., etc. So
Yes.
why not? Why the heck not? So, should we get into it?
Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, so the year is 1977. Everyone in the world is excited for the third outing of Roger Moore as James Bond. And as always, with any Bond film, it's all about the car. And in The Spy Who Loved Me, released in 1977, the world got its look at the underwater driving White Lotus Esprit. And oh my word, it was incredible. Alex, what did you make of this car?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
I thought we were doing a special on the White Lotus from The Spy Who Loved Me.
Yeah. I don't think we're going to do a special on on a car. Is there a car called the White Lotus? White Lotus?
Well, he drives a Lotus Esprit in the film, and it's white. I thought when you said you wanted to do the White Lotus, I assumed you meant.
Just a second. I need to open for my cat. Miro.
You quitting?
Hey. I forgot that Lotus is also a car.
Yeah, look. Well, you can't. No, people can't see on audio.
yeah.
There's a White Lotus.
Yeah, I forgot there's also a car called Lotus. I never actually thought about Lotus and Lotus. I mean, the car and... I guess I'm a bit rusty.
The name of the car is the name of a flower.
Yeah, I never put them together. I just thought of Lotus the car, Lotus the flower. But I guess if we check out the Lotus logo, is it a lotus flower?
I have no idea. Does that car company even exist anymore?
Yeah.
No, it's not a flower. It's a green triangle with the word Lotus inside it.
Yeah, it is not a Lotus. But yeah, some people still drive Lotuses now.
Loti, I think you'll find it's pronounced.
Loti. Loti.
And that's where the British rapper got his name, Slow Tie. It all connects.
Is it?
No. Of course it's not.
Oh God, today is going to be an interesting episode. I can
I
feel
think
it.
Slow Tie actually got his name because he's called Tyrone, and then I think in school he was often thought of as being I don't know if unintelligent is the word, but he didn't talk very quickly or something. So Slow Tie. Anyway,
Oh, poor. Oh, that's not nice.
poor little
is
Slow
it?
Tie.
Yeah.
No, but just a little bit of fun to get us to break the ice there.
Yeah.
To talk with.
Yeah.
What we're actually here to discuss is the American satirical comedy drama series created, written and directed by Mike White, who you may know from things such as School of Rock. Yeah?
You never thought about it. Jack Black
Oh, yeah?
and Mike White both acted in School of Rock.
Well, I don't... Yeah, well, actually, no, he did act in School
It was
of
his
Rock.
housemate, but I never thought about Black and White. They were both, that's pretty fun, isn't it?
It is pretty fun. He also wrote School of Rock. He didn't direct it, but he wrote it. And he also wrote Orange County, which was another Jack Black movie. I guess he's good friends with Jack Black.
Yeah.
Which yeah, makes sense. Black and white, they go so well together. Jack White as well. Good stuff. Wonderful. I love it. He wrote the Emoji Movie. That's a problem. Never mind. We'll move on. So, so The White Lotus comes from Mike White and is essentially a season of television chronicling a week's holiday at the very, very exclusive White Lotus Resort in Hawaii, and follows a collection of exceptionally privileged people and the havoc that they wreak on the staff of the hotel. We'll talk more about what we think of The White Lotus, I guess, at the end of our discussion. But what did you think? What were you expecting before you watched it, Alex? What were you expecting going into The White Lotus?
Well, we had discussed it before in the podcast, so you kind of gave me an idea of there was going to be something about simple human drama, which it is not simple. It is
No.
Yeah, it's
and
much
these people
deeper.
are not humans.
And these people are not humans. Well, unfortunately, they are humans.
Well, I guess they are. I just don't like to think of people like that existing, but I guess they do.
Yeah, I guess. But there's a little bit of them in all of us. I've realized.
Yeah, that might be true.
But
I will never stay at the White Lotus.
No, absolutely. But if you look at the characters, you kind of like and dislike all of them at some point during the 6 episodes. And I feel,
with maybe one exception, there's one character I didn't like at any single point.
Yeah. But I feel like all of them have doubts and some kind of are like anybody, but also, like, for example, if you get done for and you think you are getting done for example, a bill or a hotel room in this case, then you will in a way react like people are on purpose going against you, even though it might have been just human error. You take things very personally. So I feel like anything that maybe we hate about any of these characters, because there's an array of characters in this series, I feel like maybe it could be seen as a bit of society everywhere. We're all kind of privileged in our own realm. World.
Right.
But maybe I'll go into it a little bit later more.
Yeah, that's fair. The White Lotus was filmed at the Four Seasons Hotel in Hawaii, which can run you anywhere from $750 a night to $4,000 a night.
How many?
4,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
Can you imagine spending that much money on a hotel room? Like,
I couldn't imagine spending that much money on an entire holiday.
that's
for
just
2
your hotel
weeks.
room, though.
Yeah, for a
Like,
single night.
at night?
Yeah, $4,000 a
Oh,
night.
wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I don't think I even spend that much money on a holiday, like a 2-week holiday somewhere.
No, I couldn't.
No, yeah, I can't
Physically.
afford it. Wow.
So
But it is all
that's-
inclusive.
Yeah, well, sure, but I mean, it doesn't really matter when it's like you'd
Yeah.
good. It should be all inclusive at that price.
Mm.
So shall we go through the characters that we're going to meet during our
Yeah.
stay at the White Lotus? So let's start with. I mean, this is an ensemble show. There isn't a main character, but if we sort of consider the overall vibe of this show being about the guests wreaking havoc on the people that work at the hotel, the main character could most closely be considered to be Armand.
Yeah, I guess he's the character that connects everyone. Everybody knows him.
Yeah.
Everybody interacts with him. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, because we largely stay separate. We've got like our kind of, there's the Mossberger family, there's the Newlyweds, there's there's Jennifer Coolidge doing her own mad thing.
Yeah.
And they don't really interact with each other that much. There's a bit of crossover throughout, but the thing that sort of connects everyone together is the White Lotus, personified in its resort manager, Armand, played by Murray Bartlett, an Australian actor who, looking him up, has been in a ton of stuff, like an absolute ton of stuff. Is going to be in the Last of Us show, which is coming out next year from HBO, which is going to be kind of potentially the next Game of Thrones, sort of huge. I think it's already gone down as the most expensive, one of the most expensive television seasons ever produced.
Is that
if
the
you
one
look in
from
sort
the
of a
video
bit,
game?
yes, it is the one from
okay.
the video game. So it, but if there's anything, if there's any video game that could produce, prestige television, it's probably is The Last of Us. So he's going to be in that. He's not starring in it particularly, but he's going to be in that. But he's been in tons and tons and tons of stuff over the years. But I've never particularly picked him out in anything before.
No.
Which is amazing in a way, because let me tell you, he is incredible in The White Lotus.
Yeah.
I am very much in favour of Armand in this series. Maybe not in favour of Armand's choices and what he does, but in terms of the performance and watching him kind of attempt to placate the absolutely titanic egos that are parading around in his hotel. Any scene that he's in is always entertaining. What did you make of Armand upon like your initial meeting of him? We first sort of see him waiting on the beach to meet his latest batch of babies.
Well, he knows exactly what's going to come to him. He knows exactly what his clientele is, and it's not necessarily.
He thinks he does.
Well, it's not. Well, he kind of knows that he has to. At one point, he says that he tells one of the other workers that he has to treat these guests as special chosen babies, child of the hotel. So he knows that they have to be treated in a certain way, and he doesn't say with respect. He says like babies. So I think he knows what's coming towards him, not necessarily what's going to happen with this particular batch of guests, but you know that he has been working in this industry for a while. He knows what he's going to do, and he knows what to do. He knows how to treat his guests, and he's very accommodating and charming.
Yeah.
Because,
but there's definitely there's one guest amongst this batch that's going to sort of be resistant to his typical style. And I think you're going to see that he's not really able to improvise that well.
No,
I'd say.
No, because this is a pretty bad batch of guests.
Yeah, it's not the best group of people.
No, no. So at the beginning thought he's like, and you kind of, I think from the first episode, I've kind of rooted for him. And maybe the more the series goes, the more you kind of become a little bit less understanding of his actions, but you still root for him, I think.
Yeah, he makes some big mistakes. He makes one enormous error in this first episode,
Yeah.
regarding
Yeah.
a character who we won't see again after the first episode. But yeah, he's definitely the one that's easiest to root for.
Yeah.
With one exception, actually, a character that I was really rooting for when I watched it, and in doing the prep for this podcast, I've turned against them through thinking, kind of overthinking the season. So we'll sort of discuss who that is as it goes on.
Yeah.
But let's go into, so that's sort of our main look into the running of the hotel is through Armand. But the other sort of main hotel employee that we're going to spend time with is probably, I would say, the most relatable, or at least you would want to be feel relatable to, and certainly the most sympathetic character in the show, Natasha Rothwell's Belinda.
Yeah.
Who is the spa manager at the resort.
Yeah. I think she's the one that I personally felt less, like I felt sympathy for throughout the show, and I never kind of changed my mind about her. And I think she does everything.
I mean, without spoiling it, I don't think at any point she does anything particularly that would turn anyone against her. She just sort of...
No, the more the show goes, the more you root for her, I think. Like maybe the first episode she's quite cold, but then the more you see the more the show goes on, the more you you feel
she has to be cold in this environment.
Because absolutely, because if not, what happens to her?
Absolutely. And then we spend time throughout the season with a couple of other hotel employees. In this first episode that we'll talk about in a minute, there's Lani, played by Jolene Purdy, who sort of symbolises, I guess, sort of she's in this very first episode. She goes through a plot line that we'll discuss in more detail soon, but I guess is sort of used to shake Armand. She's there to kind of shake him out of his almost robot-like kind of way he approaches the hotel. Yeah. He's got a sort of set schedule, a set way he does things, and he kind of lets everyone else pass by without noticing it, and he really misses something big with Lani. What did you think of Lani? Because I was sort of, once I realised we weren't going to see her again, I was a bit sort of disappointed. I could happily have seen her hang around for the full season.
In a way, I like the fact that she was just there on the first episode to create straight away a little earthquake in before we start, and then disappear.
Yeah,
like I feel
it's like that little crack going up the wall just before the kind of full earthquake starts.
And I think it's a very brave and intelligent thing to do, because you kind of start liking her straight away, and you think she's going to be one of the main characters, and then something happens and she creates this like little seismic thing, and then she leaves and you don't see her again. And I think it's really, really amazing that somebody would just write a character that you can relate to, and that brings such a big thing to the show for the first like moment, and then just go, okay, bye, we don't need you anymore. But she's what created the first crack in Armand.
Yeah, and Jolene Purdy, I think one of the reasons I wanted to stick around is because I very, very quickly recognised the actress as being an actress who was in Donnie Darko years and years ago.
Yeah.
She plays one of Donnie's classmates and is a character who doesn't really get any lines in the film, but is always there. And in the montage at the end of Donnie Darko, where you're seeing all of the characters from the film kind of asleep, while something horrific is happening at the same time, she's there as well. And she's really memorable in Donnie Darko without having really much specifically to do in the film. And I don't know, and that was like 2001, I think. Like, Donnie Darko's an old film at this point, and this is the first time I've really seen her since in anything since then. I was like, oh, it's the girl from Donnie Darko. And then obviously she's just here for the one episode, but she's good. Another hotel employee that we'll spend time with, but not much until the sort of latter half of the season, is Kai, played by Kakoa Scott Kekumano, who's we'll talk more about him and what he does and what his role in the show is as we get to it, but he's very good in this, I think. And then let's move on and have a little look at some of the guests. Let's start with the biggest group of people, the Mossberger family.
Yeah.
An incredible group of people.
Yeah.
You've got Nicole, the mother, the sort of matriarch of the family, played by Connie Britton, who's wonderful in this and wonderful in plenty of other things. I've seen Connie Britton in a couple of things recently and been like, oh, she's brilliant. What have I seen her in? And then I'll look and she's been in loads and loads of stuff, but hardly anything I've ever seen.
Yeah.
But she always leaves a big impact when I do see her pop up in something that I've watched. She plays, Nicole Mossberger, who's CFO for effectively Google. It's never named to be Google, but she's sort of.
I guess so,
she works for a search engine company.
Yeah.
And they clearly have a lot of money, so you can imagine that if it's not Google, it's this world's equivalent to Google.
Yeah.
Which would explain why she can afford to take her family to a hotel that the room they're in must be the $4,000 a night room because it is enormous. Although notably not big enough for the entire family.
Exactly. That's the thing. It's just like if you have that much money, you still don't have enough room to have your daughter, your son, and the friend.
Yes, it's weird, isn't it? They're in a room that's got one bedroom. I guess they're in a suite that has one bedroom.
And that's the thing. It's
but they're a family of 4, and they've brought a friend with them as well.
Yeah.
But they're deeply selfish people who only care about themselves, even within their own family.
Yeah.
Nicole is married to Mark.
Yeah.
Who is, I don't know, does he have a job? Is he the house husband? Is he sort of living a life of leisure?
We don't know anything about him.
He's played by Steve Zahn, who's an actor that I've never particularly had a lot of time for, but he's good in this.
Yeah.
But he's an actor who's easy to dislike. He can play characters that are very easy to dislike, and my God, Mark is a absolute waste of time. But we'll get into it more as we go. But one of my least favourite characters, I'd say, in this is Mark Mossberger.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, he's he really has no worries in life.
No.
He's married to somebody that I guess provides for him, and because he has no worries in life, it feels like he finds issues and problems in anything. I don't think he does work, and I think that kind of makes him a little bit not sure about himself. His wife is more more in this case, if you think about this capitalistic thing, she's more successful than him, and he's just a big baby, isn't he?
He is an enormous baby,
like
man.
anything. The episode starts that he's scared that he's got a serious illness, and
and we see much more of him than I ever would want to see.
Yeah, and you see a big shot of his scrotum, which is not fun. It's horrible, isn't it? And he just, he just is a big baby with no responsibilities, and in a way, he feels emasculated. Emasculated, is that the word? Emasculated.
Yeah, emasculated. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's his running theme throughout the whole show, is his feelings of emasculation. The things he discovers and finds out about himself and his heritage early on in the season sort of send him on an odd spiral.
Yeah.
That just highlights how selfish he is.
Yeah.
And just like his the rest of his family. Moving on, we've got where are you? Where have you gone? Here we go. Fred Heschinger plays Quinn Mossberger, their socially awkward son.
Yeah.
Who we'll talk more as we go through the show with Quinn, because he's an odd one where he doesn't have a specific story that is that complex or detailed that goes through the whole show, but he's also the character that goes on the biggest journey.
Yeah.
I would say. He's an interesting one, Quinn. He very clearly doesn't get on with his family particularly, and in particular his sister, Olivia, played by Sydney Sweeney.
Yeah.
Who I don't think I've seen Sydney Sweeney in anything before, but is she in Euphoria?
Yeah, she's in Euphoria, yeah.
So how did you find her in this compared to in Euphoria?
Well, not very different. I like her more here, but I think because it's kind of a casting, she's the daughter of. Well, no, I guess I prefer her here because she's the daughter that takes drugs and has got an attitude and doesn't get along with her parents. So I guess she can't really play it very differently because it's
Yeah, a bit
similar
of a typecasting
situations.
situation.
So
Interesting.
although I feel her range is better here because in Euphoria it was more about like her sexual side. This is more maybe a little bit more well she reads a lot of books and she's very highbrow in this one and has got an opinion about everything. I guess that's the main difference between the two characters, but I don't think she could have played it very differently.
Do you mean she reads a lot of books in the White Lotus?
Well, it feels like,
because I'm gonna argue with you on that one.
it feels like, well, that's the thing. No, well, I'm not. It looks like they're reading a lot of books, but
I don't think she reads a single word in this season.
Every day is a different book, and every day is it's like they're holding the books as props. But in
they
theory,
are 100% props.
In theory, looking at them, they are a little bit more. Like if I was just comparing the characters between her and Euphoria and here, so. But yeah, I probably don't read much, or maybe they read, it just doesn't go in. Maybe it's just read
they just
word
read
by
the same
word
over and over again.
Yeah.
Or something.
Yeah.
I would imagine. So Olivia is the daughter, and she's been allowed to bring a friend, Paula, played by Brittany O'Grady, who is of mixed race heritage. Her mother is African American Creole from Louisiana, and her father is white with Irish ancestry. So in this ensemble of basically exclusively white people, Caucasian actors, she is sort of notably not, which is only worth mentioning purely because it is sort of seems part of the remit of the show to explore her slight otherness and then how she fits in with this group of people and how she fits into this world and how different or similar she is to the rest of the people.
What I think about, first of all, I think she's a really good actress, and the same with Sydney Sweeney. I wasn't saying that she wasn't good because she played similar characters. She plays similar characters because they are similar people. But the fact that they found somebody that is so because although she's got black and white ancestry, she's very ambiguous how she looks. She doesn't necessarily, you can't really pinpoint where she could come from, and I think that's a really good casting because you don't, because she's gorgeous and she's got this incredible face that you're not really sure it could be anything, and I think that's maybe really important to her character as well. Or maybe I'm reading too much into it, I'm not sure, but she could be also Hawaiian if you look at her.
Yeah,
she could be like South American. She could be East Asian. She could be anything. She's got this incredible face that I think she could be anything, and I think she could represent all the people that are not represented. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But I don't know if it was on purpose, but in a way I saw how she looks really in a really kind of positive, in a really important way.
Yeah, and she is very good in it, and Paul is a sort of really good character that is interesting to track her across the series because she sort of does definitely go on a bit of a journey. Yeah. Although some of these journeys are quite cyclical and tend to end maybe where they started, and some of them aren't. So we'll see kind of how that goes as we go through, who kind of manages to move on and who doesn't. So that's the Mossberger family and their guest Paula. We've gone through the employees. Let's discuss the Newlyweds. Mm-hmm. We have Shane Patton, played by Jake Lacey, who who is most well known to me, as he played a character in the final season of The Office, the American Office. Yeah. almost sort of in a way, he plays an intern, I think, and you could almost see the evolution of the character he plays in that becoming the Shane that we know from this, although that character probably didn't come from quite such a privileged background. But Shane is a real estate agent, but I imagine the kind of real estate agent that exclusively deals in mansions would be my guess.
Mm-hmm.
And he's there on honeymoon with his wife, Rachel, played by Alexandra Daddario.
Alexandra Daddario, yeah.
I like Alexandra Daddario a lot. She's good.
Yeah. I don't like her here, but I like her.
Well, I like her, the actress.
Yeah.
Alexandra Daddario.
Yeah.
From films such as Texas Chainsaw 3D.
Oh.
Yeah, where she's Leatherface's cousin.
Yeah.
Along with, better things that she's done. Along with this, Rachel does not come from the same sort of privileged background as a lot of these other characters. She's kind of exploring this world and getting to grips with this world because she's had something of a whirlwind romance with Shane.
Yeah.
And they've gotten married fairly quickly, and she's sort of experiencing what it's like to be married to someone from this strata of society for the first time. She's a journalist, but I think when we say journalist, she writes lists for BuzzFeed is kind of the level of journalist that she is, which isn't, if that's something that somebody does and it brings them joy and love in their life, then that's absolutely fine. But I think that Rachel would like to believe that she is maybe more than that. And we'll see that as the show goes on. And then I think finally the last notable character to discuss before we get into the actual plot of the first episode is Tanya Mccoy.
Yes.
The closest the White Lotus gets to having an actual cartoon character in its cast. Played by the absolutely spot on, perfect, probably the best performance in this, I'd say, early doors.
Yeah.
There may be performances that are better, but it's hard to sort of bring one up immediately. She does incredible work in this. Jennifer Coolidge plays Tanya. Jennifer Coolidge, known to my generation most sort of famously as Stifler's mom in American Pie. But she's also done great work with Christopher Guest over the years in his kind of faux documentaries. And I've been watching recently, because it's just hit Netflix, Seinfeld. And her first ever TV appearance is in an episode of Seinfeld, and she's almost unrecognisable. And it's only about 5 years before she played Stifler's mum.
Wow.
But she doesn't have her sort of trademark blonde hair. She's sort of brunette in the episode of Seinfeld that she's in. But she plays a masseuse, and she's very, very funny in it. And you can certainly see, I think it's one of her earliest on-screen performances at all. But yeah, she's good and always worthwhile. Are you looking her up in Seinfeld, or are you just... Yeah,
I'm looking her up on Seinfeld because, she does look different. Wow.
Right, she looks very different to it. Yeah. Like, just that, I think that's like 1993, and I think it was 99 maybe that American Pie came out, so just about 6 years later, and she looks totally different.
I love her.
Yeah, she's wonderful. She's absolutely brilliant. If I remember, I will remember, I'll put a link in the show notes for this episode to an interview she did with The Guardian around the sort of airing of The White Lotus, where she discussed kind of how challenging she found the coronavirus pandemic to be. And I think Mike White wrote this role for Jennifer Coolidge, and she didn't want to do it because I think she kind of didn't want to leave her house. She'd become very kind of isolated through the lockdown and stuff, and she was quite scared to go back out into the world. And it was Mike White who eventually convinced her to kind of come and do The White Lotus and play this character. And it's great that he did, because she is spectacularly good in it. And yeah, she's simply described here as a troubled woman whose mother recently died, and I think that's as much as we need to say about her at the start. But yeah, that's our main sort of cast. That's who we're working with in The White Lotus. Anyone else you want to mention?
Yeah, well, there's with Lani, who creates a little earthquake. There's also Lucas Gage that plays Dylan, and he's a worker in the White Lotus, and he kind of helps a little bit to carry on this um self-destructive, but the downfall of Armand, maybe, or
Yeah, he's kind of there with Armand throughout, and Armand
yeah,
sort of
using him.
doesn't isn't his best self when
Yeah,
it comes
yeah.
to is it
And I
Dylan? Is he called Dylan? Is he playing
Dylan, yeah, and I think
Dylan,
that's
yeah.
that character is kind of like is not important, but also plays an interesting role in the series.
Yeah, and he's sort
Instead
of
of
there all the
helping
way through.
Armand with issues, he what's the word? He what's the word when you're like you don't help but you do the opposite, entice people.
Yeah, he sort of
There's
exacerbates the problem, or
there's
I
a
can't think
specific
of the
word.
right word.
But yeah, he doesn't, yeah. Instead of saying Armand, you shouldn't do this, he kind of like, there's a word.
He encourages it a little bit.
Yeah, but there's a word, there's
No,
a
I know,
proper
I
word.
can't
But no,
remember the word,
but yeah, he encourages Armand's bad behavior, and I think he's important in that sense.
Yeah, that's very true. And there's also Molly Shannon, who will turn up in the second half of the season, so we'll talk more about her.
Yeah.
Then.
But yeah, so we definitely know that there are two characters that may be Paula and Rachel that are not necessarily in the same wealth that all the other guests are.
Yes, absolutely. Particularly Rachel, Paula. Yeah. We don't learn quite as much about Paula's background, do we?
No.
But she's definitely not from quite. She's probably from privilege, but not the exceptional privilege that that Olivia's family lives in.
Yeah.
So let's get into episode 1, which is fittingly titled Arrivals. Although, ironically, for an episode titled Arrivals, we begin in the departures lounge of an airport in Hawaii, and we see a coffin being loaded onto an airplane. Yeah, who is inside? And then we see sat on a chair in the departures lounge is Shane Patton, looking shell-shocked and a little bit miffed.
Yeah.
And two very kindly elderly people sit opposite him and begin to question him in a very polite and sort of casual manner about his holiday.
Yeah.
And I think he reveals that he was there on his honeymoon and he was staying at the White Lotus. They say they heard somebody at the White Lotus died, which immediately makes us go, okay, well, there's the coffin. And then they ask him how his honeymoon was, and he tells them to F off. Yeah. Or to leave him the F alone.
What did you think of the reaction of the two other guests? So they say, we heard somebody died. And then he replies, yes. And then they say, and then it's like that person didn't exist. And then they ask, was your honeymoon everything that you expected? Or everything you
they should
wished
just
for?
move on from it as if it doesn't matter.
Somebody died.
Yeah.
And it feels like that already sets the fact that certain things in this kind of like in this kind of like world it don't matter. Or somebody died, but was your honeymoon good? So the honeymoon is more important than somebody's death. And I think that is really, for me personally, really poignant of how the show starts. That doesn't matter.
Might actually be an early hint at the identity of the body.
Yeah. Maybe. Yes. You're right. So I thought that was...
But I think, as an audience, you are now being primed immediately to suspect that it is Shane's newly-wed wife who is in the coffin.
Yeah.
But equally, I immediately I felt like that's the one person it's definitely not going to be. Because... I don't think you would make a 6-episode TV series about who has died and then have it be that most obvious Route 1 answer. Yeah,
but I thought it would have been, at one point I thought, it could have been, maybe it's going to be no one that we even know about, like a chef that we see once, you know.
Yeah, that could have,
I thought that was going to be like, because you expect, who's going to die of these characters? And then, I don't know, the more the show goes on, you go, maybe it's just... like
no one.
Maybe
it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Maybe that's not. Yeah.
And maybe it doesn't matter like how the other couple dismissed the fact that somebody died. Maybe it doesn't matter. Like maybe somebody that you never even seen or you only heard the name. So yeah.
Very, very true.
Mm.
So that's kind of the opening thing, and this kind of immediately, I'm a sucker for something like this. This hooked me in immediately. Like, oh, who's died? Who's in the coffin? Could be anybody. Oh.
But it
and
is
then, of
amazing because
course-
you go back and you find out everything. I like that as well.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think that's a good
yeah,
good
definitely.
way to
Like,
start.
is this called? Is it called?
Is it a
in
flashback?
media res?
Everybody
Well,
loves
it's sort
a
of a
good
flashback, or is it in media res when you start a story in the middle of it or near the end, and then you go back to the start and show? I think it's called in media res.
I'm gonna
Anyway,
say
I'm not a
yes.
professional. So we cut back 7 days earlier to
Yeah.
the arrivals. We've got our guests are on a boat headed towards the shore, to stay at the White Lotus, and immediately we have two characters observing the other guests and commenting on who they believe they are, setting me up to think that these two characters were going to be sort of Greek chorus throughout the series,
Yeah.
commenting on events, which is actually absolutely not who
No.
they are at all.
No.
But it is, of course, Olivia and Paula, describing Olivia describing her own parents as running an international paedophile ring or something to that effect. I think. I think very quickly you realise that they're just being almost performatively being disaffected teenagers.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're very intentionally doing a role, I think, as like kind of disaffected, uninterested teenagers.
Definitely.
That don't like their parents or the people in charge.
And then
So
they're
that's the
not
Mossberger
impressed with where they are. Because that's the thing. They're on a
No.
boat towards an island. Like the scenery is probably beautiful. Like, but it's like they don't care that they're there.
Yeah.
Which is
no, they don't care
insane.
at all.
And that's kind of like for me, it shows like they're just not, they've seen this all the time and whatever, they rather talk about people there instead of like enjoying the fact that they're in Hawaii on a boat.
Yeah, they'd very much rather people watch, which is a theme, I think, because we were talking earlier about their books later when we see them by the pool.
Yeah.
They're holding books, but I think what they're doing is they're watching everyone around them.
Yeah.
And not in any sort of way where they're like interested in the lives of other people. They just want to laugh at other people.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
We see glimpses of the rest of our main cast of guests here. Tanya's on the boat. Jennifer Coolidge is there, looking sort of glamorous and mysterious. And of course, Shane and Rachel are there, looking like, to all the world, like the happiest honeymoon couple of all time.
Of course.
And then they get to the shore where they're greeted by Armand.
Mm-hmm.
And we get our first kind of look at Armand as he sort of prepares Lani for her first day on the job at the White Lotus, and he's telling her about what we were saying earlier about how they want to be seen. They're like babies. They just want to be kind of mollycoddled and shown that people are there to see them. And he notices that, and very much that the resort employees should not be seen. That's kind of the dynamic that Armand subscribes to, and that these big resort hotels do subscribe to, is that the guests want to be seen, and the resort employees should not be seen, and should not stand out in any way. Which is why Armand is disturbed when he looks at Lani and realizes she has a stain on her shirt.
Yes.
That he takes to be mayonnaise, but that we sort of quickly learn is not mayonnaise.
That's not mayonnaise.
No, it's not mayonnaise at all. And his solution is just to tell Lani she's got a tray with hot towels on it that she's holding at sort of just about waist height, slightly higher than waist height. And Armand's solution to this unsightly stain is to tell her to hold the tray so that it blocks the stain, resulting in her looking absolutely absurd. With this tray held up right up to her chin with hot towels piled up on it, like she's a sort of I don't know, like she just looks absurd, basically. So they arrive, and there's a sort of a notable moment. The guests are all arriving. Shane and Rachel walk up, and Armand, who's obviously prides himself on knowing the guests before they arrive and being able to kind of recognise them without having to ask their names. He says, Mr. and Mrs. Patton. And Rachel has this little moment where she kind of almost questions Armand on whether she should be using her new surname or not.
Yeah.
What did you think to that bit?
Well, that moment, she still wants an identity, and her identity is her name. And she hadn't thought before that once you marry this man, your identity. So I think it's the first time that she has a glimpse to the fact that maybe she's going to lose her identity.
What does it tell you about somebody who hasn't considered this until the honeymoon?
If they haven't discussed this before getting married, then their relationship is already kind of superficial.
Yeah, it does quite a lot of character building, I think, quite quickly.
Yeah,
and also the way Alexandra Daddario plays it is quite endearing immediately as well, I think.
Yeah, because it's like, well, they hadn't considered it, so that means it's superficial. They don't really know each other.
Yeah.
Because I guess this is something that you discuss before you get married. Are you going to change your name?
I think so.
Yeah.
You would assume so.
But this is the first time that you go, maybe whatever was happening on the boat, which is all kissy kissy, lovey lovey, is not necessarily the truth.
Yeah, definitely. And we also, Tanya arrives, has just an impossible amount of suitcases.
Yeah, for one
Nobody
week.
can have that many suitcases for one person. And just immediately announces that she needs a massage. Not that she wants a massage, that she needs a massage.
Yeah.
She absolutely has to have a massage.
Yeah.
There's no way she can go through any more of her day without a massage.
No.
And I think immediately as well, this tells you straight away that Tanya is a person who has been on holidays like this many times, and she has no interest in the sort of niceties immediate.
Nothing.
She's not unpleasant. She's not being rude or unpleasant. She's just very much like, I need a massage, please.
Yeah.
Can you get me a massage?
Yeah, this is nothing new to her. Like, if me or you would be there, they would be like, oh my God, what is this? Like mouth open, but she just doesn't even look around. Like, this is normal to them.
Massage
it's
time,
like
please.
Them going to a hostel.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas I'd be like, what? There's a spa as well with the possibility of a massage at some point. You can't be serious.
No.
Whereas Tanya's much more now. Give me a massage. Which immediately kind of puts on a trajectory to interact with Belinda, the resort manager, and we'll come back to that a bit more later. Although Belinda does end up sort of helping Tanya up to her room. And there's just a great little moment in Tanya's room where she arrives and then has an absolute freak out about having lost this white plastic bag.
Yeah.
Announces immediately it contains her mother's ashes, which obviously makes Belinda start to join in the freak out. And then very quickly the bag is found. It was like behind another suitcase.
Yeah.
It was not hidden. It was not even hidden. Tanya just is somebody who doesn't really look. She just expects other people to sort of solve her problems, I'd say. She seems like that. Shane and Rachel arrive in their room. Before we discuss any of the ins and outs of the room they're in, or like why they're in that room, just the room that they arrive in, if you were to arrive into that room, what would your thought be?
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Your thought would be,
this
is the most incredible space
bigger than my
I've
apartment.
Ever been. Yeah. This is
Look
bigger.
at
This
the
room
view.
is bigger.
Is the mini bar full of free booze? We are a married couple. Let's use the shower. Like just anything but whatever.
Because what Shane very quickly realises is that this is not the pineapple suite.
No, this is not the
And so
pineapple
begins the
suite.
first utterance of the phrase pineapple suite, which must be spoken more than any other word in this entire series.
Yeah.
Because I think Shane says pineapple suite about once every 10 minutes in this throughout the entire season of TV.
Yeah.
Shane did a virtual tour of the room before they arrived. It was of the pineapple suite. He knew it was the pineapple suite because, as we will learn much later on, the pineapple suite has pineapples all over the walls.
Yeah.
And this room does not have pineapples all over the walls
No.
because, do you know what? It's nicer than that.
Exactly.
It's not as
Much
gaudy
nicer.
as that. Shane goes down, talks to Armand. Armand immediately turns on the sort of charm that he was talking to Lani about earlier, where he's sort of saying, you know, there's been a mistake, but we'll do this, 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 and this to make up for it. And basically, Shane isn't accepting anything less than being in the pineapple suite.
But he doesn't say there was a mistake. Like the mistake. And I think that's the first error that Armand does. There's no mistake from the hotel perspective, but it's a mistake from the booking from his mother. And I think if Armand really believed what he said on the beach, that you need to like accommodate him, he should have admitted to the mistake himself and apologized. Right. And I think that's the first thing, that it's kind of like he goes, oh, we're like to be seen but not heard, or not seen, and you know but he's the first that breaks that rule.
That's very true, actually, because I guess something about Shane just turns him off him immediately.
Exactly.
He doesn't like Shane.
But he should have been like, this is a mistake we've done. We'll give you free champagne, free champagne for the rest of the thing, or free whatever. But he doesn't.
But he's trying to keep up this balancing act of placating Shane while also not implicating the hotel in any error.
But the customer's always right. And that's what he was, Not in this case, but it is because the hotel made a mistake. But I think that's the first crucial mistake that Armand does. Is that he wants to fight win against somebody that is in society on a higher step of the ladder than him. Yeah,
cannot be beaten.
No. And I think that's the crucial moment where you go, what now that I watched the entire season, I think that's the moment where you go, oh.
Yeah. And crucially, what does Shane do to try and solve this problem? Who does he turn to?
Oh, Mummy.
He turns to Mummy.
His Mummy.
We'll see much more of Mummy as we go through the series, but
yeah.
Shane is clearly the sort of person who has one way that he deals with problems, and it is to get Mummy involved. So that starts to happen. And then I don't know if I'm going through this exactly chronologically as the episode happened, but the next kind of event I've got here is Tanya can't have a massage. The spa is fully booked, but because Belinda is a lovely, accommodating, wonderful person who is probably feeling quite sympathetic to Tanya, having learned that her mother's died, instead provides a different sort of service. I don't even quite know how to describe what happens here.
I think it was like a healing mindfulness moment.
Yeah, it's a sort of chanting mindfulness thing.
Yeah.
It looks very nice. It's fairly I don't know, to me it comes across as a little trite in terms of it's a little bit cliche, but it absolutely blows Tanya's mind.
Yeah.
And the only reason I'm calling out for being a little bit cliche is just because the effect it has on Tanya is incredible.
Yeah.
It's as if she's just experienced a rebirth. Through maybe, as Armand was saying, feeling seen. This isn't a massage; it's something different that she hasn't experienced before, and it immediately makes her feel very connected to Belinda, who I think is just trying to do something nice for this person she feels quite sorry for, because Tanya's very privileged, but you immediately sense that she's not very I don't know, she's vulnerable. She feels like a vulnerable person.
Yeah, and you feel sorry for her, and she needs someone. That you can feel that she's lonely.
Yeah. And it's a bizarre, and in fact, let's just pause at this moment because this is a lot of weird noises going on. It's made me just remember the unseen cast member of this show that makes it perfect is the score. This show has an incredible score. Yeah. The music was done by Cristobal Tapia de Villa, a Chilean-born Canadian film and television score composer, and it's just full of these kind of almost found sounds, animal noises, heavy breathing and panting,
Yeah.
and it's what gives the White Lotus its unique feel. Like we've seen, the TV shows have been made about rich people in hotels before, etc., etc. But this feels like its own beast, and a huge part of that is down to the score that runs through it, I would say. So yeah, I think that's pretty great. We cut to Nicole Mossberger arguing with Mark, who reveals that he is worried he has cancer. He's waiting for a call from the doctor. They argue about time zones and don't really seem to hear each other, which is a common theme running through. We see Olivia and Paul are lounging by the pool, and they're reading a book. They're Nietzsche and Freud or something. Really these absurd sort of intellectual books, which is not what you would take on holiday, I don't think.
No.
Generally.
Well, you never know. Like, it might be something that relaxes them, but it's I think they're holding a book and looking at the pages more than reading the book. Yeah. And because they're college students, they think they are maybe wiser than they actually are, or want to show.
Yeah, which is personified by Rachel. Comes up to talk to them, says they saw her on the boat. She reveals that she's a newlywed, etc. And they just kind of laugh at her.
Yeah.
It's really horrible.
Yeah. It is horrible. However, she's an adult. And the way that... So, I don't know, like, Alexandra Daddario is really good in this because she's an adult with a job, but she's still a kid. Because at the end of the day, having these two college students laughing at you, you should be like, what? But she gets really affected by them.
Yeah, she does.
And you're at the age that shouldn't really matter. And why are you talking to them? Why are you indulging these kids in a conversation? Because it's weird. It's a weird dynamic because maybe she feels like she gets affected by them because maybe she doesn't feel like she belongs there, but they do.
Yeah.
So and so this episode is really good to kind of understand what kind of character she is and start feeling sorry for her. You kind of feel sorry for her. You're like, oh.
Yeah. Very, very true. But one person who should definitely feel sorry for her is Shane. And I think there's a point, I can't remember if it's this episode or next episode, but there's definitely a point where she tells Shane that those girls kind of upset her.
Yeah.
And his response is to kind of go and flirt with them. I think we'll see this in the next episode maybe. But he sort of goes to flirt with them instead of just ignoring them or not being friendly at all.
I think that I was just thinking about that because I think that's a look into the future of what their relationship is going to be like. The older they get, the more Rachel's going to be at home doing her thing and he's going to be out flirting with young girls. I just thought that was like a kind of like a because he's already flirting with young girls when he's got a beautiful wife, gorgeous wife, and he wastes time with these two younger girls already. So,
yeah, because he's awful.
He's awful.
We also see, I think this might happen sort of around the time that Shane is haranguing Armand for the incorrect room issue, but we see Lani. We find out she's pregnant first of all.
Yeah.
So it was not mayonnaise on her shirt.
No.
It was lactation. Milk, and her water breaks suddenly in the middle of the hotel.
Yeah.
Right next to Armand, who does not realise at all.
No.
And she sort of goes into a panic about it, and I think it's Belinda that ends up helping her or finding her initially. Oh, no, it's somebody else, because then they go and get Belinda, don't they?
Yeah.
But basically, Lani goes off to try and deal with that, and Armand walks out, steps in her water, and just sort of is like, what is this? Why is this here? Just completely kind of unaware that one of his staff is pregnant and about to give birth in his hotel.
Yeah.
So that begins to happen, and yeah, and as the guests start to dine with over the meal, Lani's giving birth in Armand's office, and Armand sort of has to go and find Belinda because she's got some sort of medical experience, at least in terms of she's the closest they've got at that moment in time. And then Lani sort of proceeds to give birth, and this kind of all exists to really shake Armand into the fact that, and he'll obviously think back to that moment with the stain on the shirt and stuff, and he'll realise that he should have seen that one of his staff was in need, and he didn't sort of do anything to help and didn't notice.
Yeah.
Which really shakes Armand to his core. Then after dinner, we see Mark and Nicole are up in the bedroom. Mark gets a call from his doctor, but is disconnected, so we'll have to wait for the next episode to find out what the result of his diagnosis is. And Rachel and Shane sort of there's a repeated thing in this season of Rachel and Shane going back up to the bedroom and putting the arguments of the day behind them and sleeping together, having sex.
Yeah.
And that's how this episode ends. But notably, Shane is reading, and there's definitely a comment here. Shane is reading the book Blink by Malcolm Gladwell. Have you read that book?
No.
It's a popular science book. I think that the sort of subheading of it is the power of thinking without thinking, and I think it's all about how, it's sort of something people read when they want to be successful and powerful, and so I think it's quite a comment on Shane that he's reading this sort of popular science book.
Yeah.
That's also quite old at this point. I think it was published in 2005. So yeah, it's just a little extra bit of information about how awful he is. Then we get to episode 2.
Yeah. So after episode 1, how did you feel?
I was hooked.
Yeah, definitely.
I was enjoying it. I was definitely like, I want to see where this goes. I like these actors, and these characters are fascinating. And what did you think? Yeah,
I was definitely hooked. I thought it's just a amazing portrayal of like this kind of society, expecting things that the room is like just Shane with the room is wrong, and you just go straight away and saying this room is wrong, and in a way, Armand acting how he did is kind of like how you would feel. Like, you're so privileged that you can have this amazing room, and you're angry, you're honeymoon, you should be upstairs with your wife, and instead you're like moaning about this honeymoon because this is owed to you. Life for you is about making sure you get what you're owed and nothing else. But then if you think about it yourself, there's a little bit of shade in all of us, because, for example, fine, not about a room, but maybe something, you get the wrong pizza, and, and then you start saying, well, this is the wrong pizza. And then the waiter might say, oh, this is what you ordered. And you said, well, this is not what I ordered. And then if the waiter says, sorry, we'll make you a new pizza, then you go, oh, no, it's okay, we'll just figure it out. But if the waiter says, no, this is what you ordered, you go, no, this is not what you ordered. So you can have that interaction with anyone. And people don't like to feel like they're being gaslit. That's gaslighting, effectively. Exactly. And that's what Armand does. Yeah. And I've noticed recently more that businesses will gaslight you at the drop of a hat. Yeah, Yeah.
No,
And
this isn't what happened. No. This, it's like, well, it is what happened.
yeah.
I can see it's what happened. I
Yeah,
know it's what happened. I've
exactly.
got the emails
So
to prove it's what happened. Stop telling me it's not what happened.
exactly. So as much as I dislike Shane, we all have been in that situation. Maybe not with the Four Seasons, maybe not with the a Four
The
Season
pineapple
hotel,
suite.
but we we have been in that kind of situation, and it's just
But
like,
equally, have we not also been in a situation where we've ordered a 12-inch pizza and a 14-inch pizza is delivered to our table and we go, oh, okay, thank you very
oh,
much. I'll take the
absolutely,
14-inch pizza.
absolutely,
Like,
absolutely.
he doesn't have that. He's incapable of seeing that he's got the better room. Like, his room is nicer
Yeah.
than the one he should
Yeah.
have.
Yeah.
So there's almost
Yeah.
I think some of us are more capable of, like, in these instances, if the thing that you're being gaslit about is that you have a better thing than you thought you were
Yeah.
getting,
Mm.
maybe you just go, okay,
Yeah.
fine, I'll take the better thing.
But if Armand is so knowledgeable about his job and how it says that he has to treat those people like the babies of the hotel, he needs to give him something before he says that the mistake wasn't theirs.
True.
And that's the thing.
He does try to make them. He does describe. He does explain how the suite they have is better and stuff.
Yeah.
But he doesn't really
But
do much.
you could acknowledge the mistake and say, I'm really sorry. There was a mistake from our side. We'll give you a discount. We'll do this. But he doesn't. But the first episode, kind of like, your idea of the characters is very different. It's very, I don't know. I felt sorry for Rachel a little bit. I thought, you kind of have an idea of what the characters are, which I think is going to be revolutionized the more you watch the season.
True. All right, should we get into episode 2?
Yeah, episode 2.
Episode 2 is titled
A New Day.
A New Day. I think one of the first things we learn here is Mark does finally manage to get in touch with his doctor and finds out that he does not have testicular cancer, which is obviously a great relief for him. He will later in the episode, and we'll discuss it more when we get to it, find out another earth-shattering piece of information that will sort of spiral him back towards kind of the negative side. Not that we'll discuss it as we get to it, but for now, he's elated. He's happy and delighted. He does not have cancer, and he's going to be the best dad in the world. He's going to be such a good dad now.
Yeah.
This is his decision that he's going to be a good dad. So he's going to spend time with Quinn.
Yeah.
Whether or not Quinn wants to spend time with his dad doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Because Mark is going to be a good dad.
Yeah, because we forgot to say that Quinn is kind of like a character that doesn't really get interacted with by his sister, his friend, or the parents. Like, Quinn is a guy.
True.
He's
actually,
he's
we
there
didn't
in the
mention it. At the end of
background.
episode 1, he's sleeping in the kitchen, the tiny little kitchen.
Yeah.
And we see him here in the morning of the first day. He's woken up completely. He's basically almost boiled alive in this kitchen with the door shut and stuff. So he can't sleep in there. His sister won't let him sleep with her and Paula in the huge living space. Yeah. So what's he going to do? We'll find out later. Yeah. We cut to the breakfast area, the breakfast buffet. Shane decides to have what I can only describe as a spite breakfast, where he piles his plate as full as he possibly can with everything, almost as a message of like, if you're not going to give me what I want, I'm going to take as much as I possibly can from you. Ignoring the fact that it's all, it's all inclusive. It doesn't matter. They don't care. But he's going to do that. So he has his spite breakfast and calls his mother again to tell their travel agent to tell Armand off, which is just childish and pathetic, but never mind. Rachel is considering taking a new writing assignment, which Shane isn't happy about on a couple of levels. One, he doesn't want her to work at all. He clearly thinks that she shouldn't have to work now because she's married to him. Again, a conversation that would have been really good to have before the wedding.
Getting married.
Yeah, but
so clearly these two have not thought anything through.
Yeah, he thinks it's rude of her to interrupt their honeymoon with with a writing assignment. Which, in one way, if I was on my honeymoon, I think I'd probably be slightly miffed if somebody, if my partner did this. But equally, he's not
He's
giving her any attention. He's spending his
no.
entire time worrying about the pineapple sweet. So he's doing the same thing as her.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
he's saying to her, "Oh, this is a honeymoon. You shouldn't be writing." But the entire time they're not together. If you notice,
Yeah.
she's doing something, he's doing something else. They're never together.
Yeah. So I'd be upset because I would want to spend time with who
Yeah.
I'd married if I was on my honeymoon. He doesn't
Yeah.
want to spend time with her, so
No.
why does it matter to him what she's doing with that time?
Exactly.
Because he's a controlling person.
Yeah.
And then this is the thing that I think crosses a line in a big way. He offers to pay her to not do the job. He offers
Yeah.
to pay her the equivalent amount to not take the job,
Yeah.
which A, shows that he sees the only value in work as being the money you get paid to do it.
Yeah.
And B, just shows that he has absolutely no respect for her life outside of him, outside of being married to him. He doesn't see it as being of any value at all, and she should drop the entire thing. She's always had to worry about money, and he's never had to worry about money, and this is sort of a big thing that's kind of setting them both off on their path throughout this episode. We then see Rachel later meeting Nicole. And I think Rachel has seen Nicole earlier, maybe in episode 1, and said that she wrote a sort of bio piece about Nicole at one point.
Yeah.
And Rachel kind of approaches Nicole and asks her for advice, because obviously Rachel's going for this big thing about should she try to continue to have her own career? Should she just be Shane's sort of trophy wife? What direction should she go in? She sees this Nicole Mossberger, who she knows is this big, influential, powerful woman who has made her own way in the world, and she wants advice. And Nicole gives her advice that you might find tattooed on the back of somebody's calf. You might find it written inside a greeting card somewhere. You might see it up on somebody's wall in a little frame. She says, your independence is your power. And Rachel obviously sort of laps that up. And then Nicole starts questioning Rachel about her job and realises quite quickly that Rachel is the journalist who wrote the article about her that she really clearly did not like.
No.
And then Connie Burton plays this scene perfectly, where she turns 100% on Rachel, but without at any point raising her voice But she is terrifying. She is absolutely terrifying.
It's an incredible scene. It's so it turns from a pleasant conversation to a mortifying conversation.
Yeah, she completely breaks her down.
Yeah.
And tells her she's a bad journalist, etc.
Yeah.
And Rachel ends up walking away from that conversation less certain of her future than she was before she entered it, which is absolutely not what she wanted.
Instead of taking on her stride, that she managed to make a woman that powerful feel threatened by her.
Yeah.
And going, oh, maybe I am a good writer. She believes her. That's how weak
that's very true.
This character is. True.
But there is the little touch that she sort of plagiarized a lot of the article from some other article, it seems, which sounds sort of not great. So
but because
maybe
instead of taking, but do we know that? Because instead of taking responsibility for what she has written, she has blamed somebody else.
Possibly, but if I remember exactly what happened, she mentions this fact when she sees Nicole in the first episode that she had sort of plagiarized this article. I think she doesn't just say it as a defense to Nicole. I think she says it sort of when she's a bit calmer as well, just to Shane possibly. But either way, she's sort of, I don't know. When I first watched the White Lotus, because I like Alexandra Daddario so much and wanted to like Rachel, I sort of, and because she is presented a bit as the underdog and the outsider and not from that world of money, I sort of just wanted to be on her side as much as possible. So I was very much sort of...
No. I was like, no way. No way you're going to marry a man, not know if you're going to have a career, not know if you're... I was just... I felt sorry, but also I felt like she was too weak.
Yeah.
You're supposed to be this great writer that wants to be independent, that wants to have a career. And the first moment your husband says, I'm sorry, but honeymoon or not honeymoon, if a job opportunity comes and you believe it's important, your partner needs to support you, of course. Yeah. And you need to go, I'm doing this. You don't ask. You say, I'm doing this. but
Yeah.
it was kind of like she's always. I feel like she's trying to find an easy way out, and for me, from the beginning, I just couldn't relate to her because I'm not that kind of person in the sense of
Yeah.
like if you're in a couple, you understand your dreams and goals, and you go, well, this is a job, and I have to do it. Like
Yeah.
then we find out that at the end of the day, Nicole is constantly working on her holiday.
Yeah. Nobody's going to tell her she's not allowed to work.
Nobody's going to tell
this is
her.
what she
Yeah.
does.
And that's the point. Nicole is a very annoying character, but also she is independent and she does what the hell she wants, but she works constantly, holiday or not holiday.
Shane continues to pester Rachel about the job, and Rachel eventually abandons the job, which again is just notable because if Rachel wasn't doing something that upset Shane would ignore her entirely. Shane would just go off and find something else to be irritated by. But because she's doing something he doesn't like, he's giving her all this attention.
Yeah.
Because he only seems to be interested in things that are going to make him irritated.
Because at the end of the day, they spend so little time together in this resort that she could have written the article in the time that he went to moan to his mother about something.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So we spend some time in this episode as well with Olivia and Paula, who at one point do something that I feel like Mike White was sort of sat around thinking, what do young girls do together nowadays? And the answer he came up with is that they do some ASMR. So there's this fascinatingly strange scene where, for anyone who doesn't know, ASMR is when you sort of very quietly whisper and sort of scrape the microphone and I've got a bit of wood here and I'm messing around with can you hear that? Is it being picked up? That's ASMR. Which is a very valid, people who respond to ASMR sort of get goosebumps and tingles, and I get a slight response to ASMR stuff when I hear it, but not. I think there are people who really, really respond to it, and that's very valid and absolutely fine. But Paula and Olivia just sort of flick lighters next to each other's ears and tap on things, and there's this just slightly unusual scene where they do ASMR with each other and make sacrifices to Hecate. And generally, I guess, do things that I feel like they do things that they think will freak out their parents, basically.
Yeah.
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 And then they do things that would actually freak out their parents because they go to the beach and just do a load of drugs.
Yeah. But
Paula's got this bag.
The funny
full
thing
of
is
drugs.
that ASMR scene, they go, oh, we don't have any drugs. Oh, where can we get drugs? And then they're like, oh, but I've got this Oxycontin. I've got this. And they bring out this cocktail.
They've got a huge number of drugs.
Of over-the-counter drugs. And it's just like, and it's just, in a way, shows America how they're like, oh, we don't have any drugs. But in reality, they're full of drugs because they have a drug for everything. And it's just, it's weird. Because they thought, oh, we don't have drugs. Oh, but I've got this for sleeping, this for anxiety, this for my ADHD.
Yeah, and if we mix them all together, something will happen.
Yeah, yeah.
So they are completely high, out of their minds high, when the worst person you would ever want approaching you when you're in that state approaches them. Tanya turns up and starts just sort of jawing at them about something they are incapable of handling. So they very quickly run away. Unfortunately, leaving their bag full of drugs, which basically ends up finding its way to Armand, which is not great because we find out that Armand is 5 years sober. He's a serious addict, and the fact that he didn't notice that Lania was pregnant has left him absolutely teetering on the edge of sobriety. Yeah. And at this exact moment, he is presented with a big bag full of drugs. So that's a big old temptation for Armand. Yeah. We see later at dinner, I believe, Paula flirting with a busboy who is Kai, who we will see more of as the series goes on, and this is the sort of the beginning of the relationship that's going to develop between Paula and Kai, driving a big wedge between Paula and Olivia for various reasons, and we'll learn more as we go on, but basically because Olivia doesn't like Paula to have anything that's
Yeah.
her own.
Yeah.
So, as well as this, we get an exceptionally awkward scene where Tanya has invited Belinda to dinner. Belinda desperately tries to say she can't go because she knows that she shouldn't really have dinner with the guests. But she also knows that her job is to please the guests, and at a certain point she just has to say yes to Tanya. Otherwise, she risks Tanya sort of complaining about her. So then at this dinner, and this is the beginning of the most just upsetting subplot in this whole thing, Tanya offers to fund a wellness centre that would be run by Belinda, because Tanya has that sort of money that she can just chuck about. Belinda very clearly doesn't.
And
Belinda obviously...
Belinda has a very human reaction to it and kind of doesn't really accept straight away this, because she doesn't want to, she thinks it's too generous of Tanya to offer this. And so, she considers it, she has to think about it.
But she does start formulating a business plan, and as the days goes on, and Tanya becomes more reliant on Belinda, it will sort of build to a point until Tanya maybe finds something else to focus on. But we'll see that when we get to it. Mark, after dinner, calls his uncle to tell him that he doesn't have cancer. And through the conversation, Mark finds out that his father didn't die of cancer like he thinks. Mark's father died of the AIDS virus, because Mark suddenly discovers on this holiday that his father lived a double life as a gay man. Which is going to have enormous knock-on effects for the entire Mossberger family as the episodes play out. It's a pretty interesting thing to reveal, and Steve Zahn plays it very well. I think I was laughing quite loudly at this scene just because you could see how incredibly affected Mark is by this news that the person he thought he knew as his father actually had this entire separate life that he had no idea about. That was what led to his death, or what what ultimately he died through that other life. Then we finally end the episode with Quinn being kicked out of the hotel room by Olivia, and he decides that he's going to go to the beach, and he sees some whales. He starts to connect with nature, and he falls asleep on the beach. And that brings us to the end of episode 2.
How did you feel about episode number 2? How did it go for you?
I remember liking episode number 2. I don't think there's nothing in episode 2 that really massively changes the world, if you see what I mean. We sort of move through the second day, we learn a bit more about the characters, but it's not a huge episode in the series. Yeah,
I think it's like the calm before the storm.
Yeah, I think a little bit. It's positioning the players on the board and seeing where they lie, and kind of introducing a few plots, this wellness centre that Tanya's going to fund for Belinda. Mark finding out that his father died of AIDS is going to have a big impact. Rachel and Shane, it's sort of just repeating the themes of the first episode a little bit with those two. I think she gets knocked back a lot by the conversation she has with Nicole, but beyond that, it's and that bag of drugs ending up in Armand's possession is definitely going to have a big impact. So things get moved around. It's still good, but there's better things to come. So
I think it's kind of like putting things into,
because it's a show that is on the rise constantly, I would say. Is the White Lotus.
Like the tide. Ooh.
Yeah. What did you think of?
I feel it kind of. Like I said, positioning the characters where they're supposed to be and what's going to happen. You kind of, in the first episode, Olivia and Paula are kind of on the same level. However, here you start seeing the cracks in their relationship because Paula likes a boy and Olivia doesn't look like happy about it. Rachel wants to work and Shane is not happy about it.
And also up until the point where Paula clearly likes that boy, they've done a very good job of not really being clear exactly what kind of relationship Olivia and Paul are in.
Yeah.
Whether it's platonic, whether it's romantic, whether there's a sexual element to it. It's sort of all played, it's all mixed up into this one hard to define thing, which I think is probably, fairly accurate to a lot of young relationships, friendships nowadays. I think.
It's getting a Quinn out of the room, and so just the episode. It kind of like sets up, like the first episode kind of sets up the scene. The second episode kind of sets up what's about to go south.
Yeah, definitely. So I hope everyone's enjoyed that. If you haven't watched The White Lotus yet, we've only spoiled the first 2 episodes, so before next week you've got a chance to catch up and watch the whole thing. Please do come back and join us next week for our concluding thing, where we'll talk about episodes 2 through 6 and give our final thoughts on The White Lotus as a whole. So if you've enjoyed listening to our rambles, you can find more similar content on our social media pages. In particular, you can find us on Facebook and Instagram, where we're most active, and links to those social media accounts are found in the show notes of this and every single episode. And please do get in touch and let us know what you think of The White Lotus. Wouldn't that be exciting to hear?
Yeah.
And, send us anything else that you would like to share as well. And I'll see you next time. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.